You're sitting on the couch building a Lego Mercedes. The instructions are lying around somewhere. Half the pieces are already lost in the carpet, but you're still confident you'll make a championship-winning car. And suddenly, a thought pops into your head. How did Lewis Hamilton even become a Formula One star and turn me into a Mercedes fan? Sit back, I'll tell you. Lewis Hamilton was born on January 7, 1985 to an ordinary family in Stevenage, England. Not in Monaco, not amid yachts and champagne, but in a place where motorsport is something distant, almost fantastical. His parents divorced when he was 2 years old, and Lewis stayed with his mother, Carmen Larbalstier. But his father, Anthony Hamilton, never forgot about his son and spent a lot of time with him. And it was he without whom this story wouldn't exist. At the age of 6, Lewis showed an interest in motorsport. His first track is the floor of his room. His first race car is a radio-controlled car. He races it like it's a real Grand Prix. And the funniest thing is he's not just playing. He starts winning music, radio-controlled car competitions. Even then, adults look at him and think, wait, does this kid even know what music he's doing? Then comes the next step. His father sees Lewis' interest in motorsport and buys him a used go-kart. Anthony wasn't a rich man. He couldn't just open his wallet and buy his son a way into Formula One. He could only work, and he worked as if he had a contract with fate. Sometimes he worked 4 jobs at once. He toiled to pay for training, travel, tires, and engines. And after work, at night, he repaired and improved his son's go-kart in the garage. Because karting isn't a kid's sport, it's a financial meat grinder. Lewis begins racing on the karting tracks of Britain. A little boy in a helmet that sometimes looks like it weighs more than he does. At first, of course, not everything is perfect. There are defeats. There are days when the kart breaks down, when competitors arrive with equipment twice the price, when it seems like this whole sport is not for such families. But this is where character is born. He grows up under constant pressure. He knows his father didn't just bring him along for the ride. His father gave everything for this. And so Lewis learns not to whine, not to give up, not to make excuses. He learns to fight. And motorsport was a closed world back then. Lewis is a black boy in a sport where almost everyone around him is different. This adds pressure. He faces prejudice, a sense of loneliness, the fact that he needs to be more than just good. He needs to be the best to be taken seriously at all. He wins races. He wins championships. He becomes a star of British karting. But the real story happens when he's about 10 years old. The awards ceremony following the British Junior Karting Championship. The hall is filled with important people, team bosses. Among them is Ron Dennis, the head of McLaren. Lewis approaches him for an autograph. A little boy who could have simply smiled and walked away, but instead he says, "Hi, my name is Lewis Hamilton. One day, I'll race for McLaren." It sounds almost brazen, almost like a joke. But that's Lewis. He doesn't ask. He declares. Ron Dennis remembers him, and a few years later, McLaren actually takes him into its junior program. Imagine you're still a kid and one of the biggest teams in the world already looks to you as the future, but at the same time, the dream becomes harder. Because now every race is a test. Every mistake becomes even more painful. But Lewis copes. His father becomes more than just a dad. He becomes a manager, mechanic, psychologist, and biggest fan. All rolled into one. Sometimes they argue. Sometimes the pressure is enormous. But Anthony continues to believe in his son as if he already sees him as a champion. Lewis climbs the ladder music of Junior Series at breakneck speed. He wins Formula Renault UK, then dominates European Formula 3, and then takes the GP2 title, the final step before Formula 1. And it becomes clear this guy isn't just a talent, he's a future superstar. And in 2007, he entered Formula 1. He debuted for McLaren and immediately achieved the impossible. A rookie began fighting for the world championship. He didn't get used to it, didn't learn, but from the very first race, he drove like he was the boss. In the following year, he became world champion. dramatically. In the final meters in Brazil, music. It was one of the most cinematic finales in the history of the sport, and Lewis became the first black world champion in Formula One history. He was already a star. Contracts were huge, salaries were growing. McLaren was making him the face of the team. His first big salaries were measured in millions, but with fame comes pressure. You're no longer just a driver, you're a symbol. Then a difficult period began. McLaren no longer always produced the best car. There were victories, but the titles were going to others. Lewis was struggling with inner doubts. Should he stay in his comfort zone or take a risk? And then he took a step that many considered a mistake. In 2013, he left for Mercedes. Mercedes wasn't a monster back then. It was a risk. Many said, why bother? You're wasting your chances. But Lewis saw the future, and the future is coming. The hybrid era begins, and Mercedes becomes a dominant force, and Hamilton becomes the symbol of this era. He wins title after title, rewrites records, becomes a 7-time world champion, and is compared to Schumacher. He becomes the record holder for most wins in Formula One history. He becomes the record holder for pole positions. His name becomes a statistic that looks like a cheat code. But here comes a major twist because Lewis' main enemy at Mercedes wasn't Red Bull or Ferrari at first, but the man from the next garage, Nico Rosberg. And the most cinematic thing is that they've known each other since childhood. Back in karting. Back then it was a friendship. Laughter, two boys dreaming of Formula One. But when Mercedes began to dominate, the friendship ended. The team became an arena. 2 champions in one music dream car and only 1 title. Lewis was pure speed and instinct. Rosberg was cold discipline and calculation. And in 2016, Rosberg did the impossible. He won the championship, beating Hamilton in the most intense internal battle of the era. And then came the shock. He immediately retired, because that battle cost him everything. He beat Lewis once, and then it was as if he'd given up because he simply couldn't handle another season like that. But Hamilton stayed and continued making history, taking titles until 2020. But Formula One always leaves room for drama. 2021, a battle with Max Verstappen, one of the most intense seasons in history. Contacts, nerves, arguments, the final in Abu Dhabi, which still sparks a war in the comments. Music. Lewis loses the title on the last lap. After that, Mercedes no longer dominates. Years of struggle begin. Lewis stays, keeps driving, keeps looking for a chance because he knows no other way. And then another unexpected twist. He signs with Ferrari for 2025. Lewis Hamilton in red, one of the most high-profile transfers in the history of sport. And now we look ahead to 2026. New rules, a music new era, a new chapter for Lewis. Hamilton's story isn't just about getting lucky with a car. It's the story of a boy with a remote-controlled toy, a go-kart he's been supporting, and a father who worked himself to the bone so his son could one day prove to the world, I'm here for a reason. Now, back to you to your Lego Mercedes on the couch. If this story resonated with you, leave your thoughts on Lewis and his career in the comments. This was Mort. Bye-bye.